Okay, good morning everyone and welcome back to the second session of today's online class in supply chain management. This is Dr. Mahesh M. Wanjari, Assistant Professor from Department of Management Studies, SDM College of Engineering and Technology, Dharwad. Okay, so we are discussing chapter number 10, okay, from Unit 6, Coordination in Supply Chain. Okay, so far we have discussed all the 5 managerial levers to achieve coordination that enables a manager help achieve coordination in supply chain. Okay, and the last one we discussed in the previous class was building strategic partnerships and trust in a supply chain. Okay, so before I go ahead with the remaining part, okay, yeah, so I would like to recall that these continuous replenishment programs and the vendor managed inventories. Okay, we have already come across, okay, the same, okay, in previous, okay, managerial levers. So where I did not explain them, if you can recall, I said I will explain it at the last part of the, okay, chapter. So managerial lever, okay, which help improves information accuracy. So two practices of assigning single point of responsibility. Okay, so we're talking about the two practices of assigning single point of responsibility when sales occurs through retailers. So when we say retailers, please remember we are talking about organized retail chains, not unorganized retailers or kirana stores. Okay, so when the two practices of assigning single point of responsibility when sales occurs through organized retail chains, one is continuous replenishment programs and the other is vendor managed inventory. So these practices, okay, help improve information accuracy in the supply chain and minimize the fluctuations in demand. Okay, so we are going to study them now. Okay. So continuous replenishment and vendor managed inventories. So these are single point of replenishment decisions and they ensure visibility and a common forecast. Okay, so I repeat. So continuous replenishment system and vendor managed inventories are the practices of single point of replenishment and these decisions ensure visibility of the demand. Okay, when I say visibility, it means visibility of demand across the supply chain and a common forecast is enabled. So that is the reason why, since the demand is visible to all the stages in the supply chain and common sales forecasting is done, it dampens or reduces the bullwhip effect because lack of visibility of demand data and the lack of information sharing and lack of common forecasting are some of the reasons that bullwhip effect occurs. So through such practices, continuous replenishment programs and vendor managed inventories, information accuracy can be improved and bullwhip effect can be reduced. So two practices of assigning single point of responsibility are continuous replenishment programs and vendor managed inventory. So we're going to learn them in detail, okay, in next slides. Okay, the first practice is continuous replenishment programs. Okay, this is a wholesaler or a manufacturer replenishes a retailer based on point of sale data. The POS data, again, we are talking about organized retail chains. Please do not, okay, visualize the kirana stores or unorganized retail stores. Okay, so it cannot be practiced in unorganized retail market like in India, okay, where the penetration of unorganized retailing is as high as 92 to 94%. Okay, so we are talking about an economy or a country where the penetration of organized retail, okay, is maximum, like in US and other developed countries, where it is penetration of organized retailing itself is 92 to 94%. Okay, so continuous replenishment program in this practice, a wholesaler or manufacturer replenishes retailer based on point of sale data. So the single point of contact for retailers. It will maybe either wholesaler who supplies orders of all the retailers or manufacturer who supplies orders of all the retailers, and that order fulfillment is based on point of sale data. Point of sale data is nothing but when you visit the organized retail stores like Reliance, More, Big Bazaar. So when you go to the sales counter, okay, generally we call them in India. So that is nothing but a point of sale where you make the payment and take the delivery of your goods, okay, and your products purchased are scanned using a scanner, and the purchase data is entered into the computer in the store, and the same data is shared with the servers of the retail chain. Okay, say for example, Reliance Retail Private Limited in India, or Aditya Birla Retail Private Limited, okay, or Future Group, and so on. So based on that data, based on that point of sale data, so that is the demand data in real time, wholesaler or manufacturer replenishes or fulfills the retailer orders. So that is continuous replenishment programs. So in many cases where the softwares are very sophisticated, the retailer need not even place the order with wholesaler or manufacturer. The order is automatically generated depending on the safety level of inventory stipulated in the store level software. However, in many instances, continuous replenishment programs, short form CRP systems, are driven by actual withdrawals of inventory from retailer warehouses rather than point of sale data. So again, see, we are talking about organized retail chains like Reliance Retail, Aditya Birla Retail, okay, those who will have their own warehouses. As you can recall, okay, like a more store, the supermarkets have a warehouse in Rayapur in Dharwad, Hubballi. Okay, so the point here is, however, in many instances, CRP systems are driven by actual withdrawals from inventory from retailer warehouses. So it means, so the point of sale data from more store Saptapur, for example, is not taken into consideration for replenishment. Okay, the Rayapur warehouse or the Rayapur, okay, Rayapur warehouse or the Rayapur distribution center, that is from where the data, demand data is taken, or the actual withdrawals from the inventory from the retailer's warehouse or a more store warehouse in Rayapur. That is from the data is taken and not from the point of sale data from individual store like more store Saptapur. Okay, but this reduces again the information accuracy, and the demand forecasting will not be very accurate. IT systems are linked across the supply chain. Okay, so information technology systems, the software links, okay, all the computer hardwares, okay, across the supply chain. That is how organized retailing actually functions. And in this case, in case of continuous replenishment programs, inventory is owned by retailer. Okay, so in case of continuous replenishment programs, inventory is owned by retailer. Okay, so Walmart and Procter and Gamble can be a good example here that make use of continuous replenishment programs. Inventory is owned by Walmart, okay, and Procter and Gamble, okay, replenishes, okay, the retailer orders based on the POS data shared by Walmart. Then the second practice of single point of replenishment is the replenishment means fulfilling an order, okay, preparing an invoice and dispatching the order of the buyer. It may be wholesaler or retailer. So we are talking about retailer orders in this case. So second practice of single point of replenishment is a vendor managed inventory. So in this case, manufacturer is responsible for all decisions regarding product inventories at the retailer. Okay, so it is the manufacturer who takes a decision of the inventory level at the retailer. It may be in the retail warehouse or a retailer's individual stores. And second differentiating feature is inventory is owned by manufacturer until it is sold by the retailer. So though the finished goods inventory might have been supplied from manufacturer to warehouse of the organized retail chain, and that inventory might have reached the individual retail stores, but until that is sold, the inventory will be owned by the manufacturer. So this is how vendor managed inventory is different from continuous replenishment program. In case of continuous replenishment program, okay, as I said last point, inventory is owned by retailer. And in case of vendor managed inventory, inventory is owned by manufacturer until it is sold by the retailer. That's why it is called as a vendor managed inventory. Okay, vendor is nothing but manufacturer. Okay, vendor in this case is nothing but the manufacturer. A retailer shares demand information with the manufacturer. That's it. Okay. So based on that demand information, the vendor or the manufacturer makes his demand forecasting and performs the function of replenishing the retailer's orders. Okay. Now vendor managed inventory continues. Couple of additional points based on the above information. That is, retailer shares demand information with the manufacturer, and based on this information, manufacturer makes inventory replenishment decisions, and it's not the retailer. This helps improve manufacturer. So there is a single point of replenishment, which is the manufacturer in this case. So this helps improve manufacturer forecasts. Okay, because manufacturer is making a forecast based on the demand data directly from the retailers, but manufacturer is making all the decisions. So that is the reason why this helps improve manufacturer forecast and better match production with consumer demand. So the manufacturer or the vendor is getting the demand data directly from the retailers based on which he is scheduling the production. Okay, so the information will be more accurate, demand forecasting will be more accurate. That is the reason why it results in better match of production with the customer demand and help reduce supply chain costs. So here is an example. It's the old one, okay, but though it is okay. So we have my vendor managed inventory example. So Fred Meyer is an organized retail chain in US. Okay. So when Fred Meyer, okay, entered into an agreement with, okay, its suppliers like Campbell, Frito-Lay, Procter and Gamble, who are vendors. Okay, the inventory level of a Fred Meyer organized retail chain dropped by 30 to 40%. Okay, the inventory levels were lowered by 30 to 40%. It means Fred Meyer used to maintain excess inventory of 30 to 40% than the actual demand. So due to the vendor managed inventory practice, the demand forecasting became more accurate, and it enabled Fred Meyer to maintain, okay, the actual maintain the level of inventory which can match with the actual demand, and resulted in inventory drop of 30 to 40%. It means, okay, the inventory carrying cost also decreased for Fred Meyer, and Fred Meyer's profits increased. Fill rates means order fulfillment rates have increased to 98%. Okay. So other examples, okay, other companies which have adopted vendor managed inventory practices include Campbell Soup, Frito-Lay, and Procter and Gamble. Okay, so that was about a single point of replenishment, two practices. So one was continuous replenishment program, and the second one was vendor managed inventory. Okay, so I think very couple of slides are remaining, 2 or 3 slides. So I better finish the syllabus and then I'll ask for your doubts. So I'll continue with the last part of the chapter. So in achieving coordination, okay. So one more concept that we are going to learn is a collaborative planning, forecasting, and replenishment. The concept of or a practice of collaborative planning, forecasting, and replenishment. Okay, so whatever we spoke about, discussed in the previous slides, that continuous replenishment program, vendor managed inventory. Okay, these practices are nothing but collaborative planning, forecasting, and replenishment. Okay, so in the previous examples, as you can see, the organized retail chains and the manufacturer come together, means collaborate. They come together and plan the demand. Okay, the retailer shares demand data or information on demand at the point of sale with the manufacturer, and manufacturer uses that real-time demand data for forecasting, which helps improve information accuracy and help improve the accuracy of the demand forecasting. So that is the reason why Fred Mayer is able to lower the inventory levels by 30 to 40%, maintain the inventory levels matching with the actual demand. Okay, and replenishment. So what we discussed is nothing but collaborative planning, forecasting, and replenishment. Means stages of the supply chain or partners in the supply chain coming together and planning, forecasting, and replenishing the orders together. So that practice is called as collaborative planning, forecasting, and replenishment. Okay, so it is not different. So, but still it is defined for 3 months. Collaborative planning, forecasting, and replenishment. Short form is CPFR. CPFR is a business practice that combines the intelligence of multiple partners like supplier of raw materials, manufacturer, and intermediaries. Okay, a business practice. CPFR is a business practice that combines the intelligence of multiple partners in planning and fulfilling a customer demand. Okay, so I hope the concept is clear. The two parties have to synchronize their data. Okay, as I said, Dell and Intel. Dell is the manufacturer and Intel is the supplier. So two parties have to synchronize their data and establish standards for exchanging information in CPFR. Okay, sellers and buyers. Okay, so for example, supplier of raw material is a seller and buyer of raw material, that is manufacturer, is a buyer. Or manufacturer of finished goods is a seller and the buyer of the finished goods, that is wholesaler, is a buyer. For example, or in case of organized retail chains, manufacturer is a seller and organized retail chain is a buyer. Okay, so the roles may vary across the supply chain. So try to understand. Sellers and buyers may collaborate along any or all of the four supply chain activities. So 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the four supply chain activities, and the sellers and buyers or partners in the supply chain can collaborate along any one or all of these four supply chain activities to come together and plan, come together, share information and do the demand forecasting and come together and replenish the customer orders. Okay, so which is represented through a figure here. So the first activity is a strategy and planning. So we already know now, I have explained what is strategy and planning. It includes account planning, means customers, market planning, and second activity, supply chain activity, the demand and supply management. The major activities include market data analysis and demand forecasting. Okay, so the collaboration arrangement can be made along these activities and a joint business plan can be performed. Then in demand and supply management activity, sales forecasting is done in a collaborative manner and order planning and forecasting is done together. Third activity, supply chain activity, the execution as per the plan. So the activities include actual production of the products and supply planning, as well as the logistics and distribution of the finished goods. Along these, in this activity, the buyers and sellers can collaborate along these activities, order generation and order fulfillment. And the fourth supply chain activity is analysis. What has happened or what is happening. Okay, so buyers and sellers can collaborate along exception management and performance assessment by way of doing it at their level and sharing the information. It includes execution, monitoring how well the plan is executed at the respective level, and what is the customer scorecard, how the customer evaluates the service. Okay, so it is a continuous activity. That's why it is shown in a cycle form. Okay, so this gives a clear idea of what exactly is collaborative planning, forecasting, and replenishment. And this figure, enables us to understand how sellers and buyers can collaborate along any or all of the four supply chain activities. Okay, so one example of CPFR, Henkel. Okay, so the name of the manufacturer. Okay, so we have the presence of this company even in India. The popular brand of this company in India is Henko. Okay, it's a stain champion. Okay, as well as Henko brand of detergent is also available in the market. And Eroski, okay, is the organized retail chain. So in December 9, oh yeah, old example, but it serves our purpose. In December 1999, 70% of sales forecasts had an average error of 50%. Okay, so try to understand an average error of 50% means, let us say the demand forecasting figure says 100 units, where the actual sales is 150 units. Okay, or 200 units or 50 units. So 70% of the sales forecast had an average error of 50%. It means the sales forecasting was highly inaccurate. And only 5% of the forecasts had errors under 20%. Means 20% error was allowed. 20% error was allowed. So only 5% of the demand forecasts, okay, had an errors under 20% of which was acceptable. So this manufacturer Henkel and this organized retail chain Eroski, okay, they collaborated across planning, forecasting, and replenishment. Okay, and within 4 months of this collaboration, okay, the situation turned around. 70% of the forecasts had errors under 20%. Means 70% of the forecasts were now accurate and were acceptable, and only 5% of the forecasts had an error over 50%. So this resulted even in customer service level of 90% by ensuring, okay, the availability of the inventory at each individual retail stores, as well as the availability of the inventory with the manufacturer every time the retailer ordered, and an average inventory of only 5 days. So Eroski organized the retail chain was able to maintain only the average inventory of just 5 days. Okay, so these are the benefits what can accrue, okay, for the manufacturer as well as for the organized retail chain, or in general terms buyer, seller, and the buyer. Okay, so what we learned in this chapter, what are the supply chain coordination, what is supply chain coordination and bullwhip effect, and what is the effect of bullwhip effect on supply chain performance. And further we learned what are the causes or reasons of bullwhip effect, and what are the obstacles to achieve coordination in supply chain. And further we had a deep discussion on what are the managerial levers that help achieve coordination in supply chain. And finally we learned the actions that facilitate the building of strategic partnerships and trust in a supply chain. Okay, so that's the end of this chapter. Okay, so now I'll if you have any questions, please ask. I'm going to unmute you all. If you do not have a question, kindly remember to mute your audio. Okay, any questions from students? Sai Sandeep, any questions?
No, sir.
Good, thank you.
Okay.
Khansa, any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Radhika, any questions? Shruti, any questions?
No, sir.
Thank you. Okay, so now before I conclude, I'd like to read one more news. So it may be a conclusion, okay, of the impact of COVID-19 pandemic so far, okay, on the global economy. So kindly erase the drawings, please. Who is doing it? Kindly erase the drawings. The session is being recorded. Okay, every time you cannot pause the video. Thank you. Okay, so now, okay, at the global level, so what is the cost of COVID-19 pandemic? Okay, it's again from Times of India, Times Business column, okay, page number 11, the Times of India Hubballi edition. Global cost of COVID-19 may touch $8.8 trillion. Okay, it's ADB estimate. ADB is Asian Development Bank. So the source is very credible and valid. I repeat, global cost of COVID-19 may touch $8.8 trillion. The cost of coronavirus pandemic could reach as much as $8.8 trillion, or almost 10% of a global GDP, depending on how long the outbreak continues and strength of government response, according to the Asian Development Bank. A shorter containment period of 3 months coupled with strong policy measures would limit the impact to $4.1 trillion or 4.5% of world output or global GDP. The Manila-based lender said in a report on Friday. The Asia Pacific region is expected to account for about 30% of the overall decline in global output, the bank said. The analysis highlights the important role policy interventions can policy interventions can play to help mitigate damage to economies. ADB chief economist Yasuyuki Kawada said the new cost estimates are more than twice the range of $2 trillion to $4.1 trillion the development bank gave April 3. There are now more than 4 million confirmed cases of coronavirus globally, with the deaths exceeding 3 lakh. So I repeat, there are now more than 4 million, means 40 lakh confirmed cases of coronavirus globally, with the deaths exceeding 3 lakh. The lender suggests boosting health systems as well as income and employment protections. The lender suggests boosting health systems as well as income and employment protections to avoid an even more difficult recovery. So if you can recall the first news that I read in the first session, so okay, Indian government has announced the relief package of 20 lakh crore and today about 1.63 lakh crore for agri sector. So what exactly the government is trying to do? As I said, 70% of the Indian population is working population is engaged in agriculture and allied activities. So by infusing that funds into agri sector, okay, the government is enabling the farmers to sow the seeds, grow, okay, the crops, okay, and enable the people in this sector, agriculture sector, to generate a sufficient income, because this income is required to purchase goods and services, and the purchase of these goods and services enable the economy to recover. So this is how you can link the news, okay, but you should have a habit of regular reading. And between 158 to 242 million jobs could be lost globally, with 70% of those in Asia, okay, and the Pacific, according to the ADB. So if there are going to be job losses, okay, so for those people who lose job will not be income and they will not demand for those discretionary goods and services. In the same column, Times Business column, if you read today, Zomato plans to lay off 520 employees as e-orders take a big hit. Food delivery startup Zomato said on Friday it will lay off 13% of its workforce in India, or about 520 employees, as a week-long coronavirus lockdown cripples the restaurant industry as well as its demand for online ordering. See how each news is related or linked to each other. Okay. Then the region accounts for a bigger share of job losses as its manufacturing sector remains labor intensive. Okay, so if you can look about this Asian region, India, China, okay, Bangla, Pakistan. If you look at these countries, okay, these are labor intensive countries. Okay, China, India, and Pakistan, 3 countries together account for 2/3 of the world population. Please recall. Okay, it's told by James Wilford, a senior economist at Asian Development Bank. Okay, so this is how you can have a glimpse or overview of what exactly happening in the global economy as well as what is happening in Indian economy, and how Indian government is initiating certain protective measures so that the income generation of the Indians can continue and the job losses can be prevented. Though fully it is not possible, but at least to the extent possible, the government is trying to uh, save the jobs, okay, of the Indians, as well as, okay, enabling the farmers to grow and earn their income. So the demand will exist only when income continues to remain or income continues to grow. Okay, so that's all about the syllabus now. Okay, and today is the last online class in the subject supply chain management. So all the chapters in all the 6 units are exactly covered as per the syllabus shared with you online. Okay, and up to 2 units, I think syllabus was covered in the classroom when the classes were going on, and the remaining chapters in the 4 units, unit 3, unit 4, unit 5, unit 6. The syllabus was covered through online classes, and all the online classes are recorded and uploaded into my YouTube channel, MBO Video Classes India. Most of you have subscribed to my channel, but still, if anybody is remaining, kindly remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And all the resources like the record video links, YouTube video links of the recorded classes, PowerPoint slides, okay, assignments, case studies, okay, all the resources, okay, are shared through supply chain management Google Classroom. Okay, so over and above anything, if you need in terms of resources or doubt clarification, please feel free to call me, okay, and clarify your doubts. Okay, that is what I would say. And kindly submit the assignments on time as per the instructions. And even in submitting the assignment, if you have any doubt, kindly let me know. I also shared the syllabus for the upcoming internal assessment. Okay, so kindly go through it. Okay, so with that, I will conclude, okay, the classes, online classes in the subject supply chain management. Okay, and I thank you all the students who have been attending my online classes regularly. So kindly note that if the students wouldn't have been there wouldn't have been online classes. I would have just recorded the video and uploaded in YouTube. Okay, so this provided an opportunity for me to explore this new platform, okay, of conducting online classes. Okay, as well as it enabled the students who are enthusiastic in learning. So they are not deprived of the learning opportunity. So that is the most significant part of these online classes. I repeat, those students who are very enthusiastic about learning. So for them, the opportunity is not deprived. Okay. So with this, I wish you all the best for your assignment submission as well as for internal assessment. Okay, and kindly stay home and stay safe. Okay, and see you soon when the college reopens. Okay, and remember to call me if you have any doubts. Okay, good day to you all and happy weekend. Okay, now I'm going to unmute you all. Okay, last minute if you have any queries or questions.